everyone, wish I had some good news to tell you with this latest Irma update. Unfortunately, it's just not the case. This hurricane has become a monster, reaching near record low pressure of 892 millibars. We're getting reports of wind gusts over 225 miles per hour. These winds are so strong, Irma could blow somebody's leg off and become a projectile and strike another person 25 feet away and kill him instantly. I have came across some information suggesting now the airlines are out to make some quick bucks. Look at this. Airlines are charging ridiculous amounts of money to fly out of Florida. Price gouging 10 times over the regular price. People are paying over $3,000 just to get out of Florida. As of now, most of the spaghetti models have a storm going over the eastern coast of Florida. And ground zero could be where I am, actually, in South Miami. I came across some reports at the Weather Channel and the MSM, and the meteorologists are downplaying the intensity of the storm. And I want to show you a couple of reasons why I may believe that to be true. This one in particular, if you look in the last couple of slides here, you're going to see this light up, the intensity scale go all the way up. And you also see it a little bit on this one. You'll see green, which is a very high indicator on this scale map. And you do see some white there. White mixing in the red. Look at that. So they're actually projecting this storm to get really close to Miami at an 894 millibar pressure. Now Hurricane Andrew was 922 millibar pressure when it hit Dade County. Now let's look at some of these storms here. For the most intense storms ever of Atlantic hurricanes. You have Wilma at 882, Gilbert at 888 pressure, and the 1935 storm. And you see Hurricane Andrew's not even on the scale. So that just tells you that this is a much more dangerous storm than Hurricane Andrew. Another thing about this storm is so massive and so large. It's over 400 miles of hurricane force winds, which is equal to the state of Florida. If it goes down the center of Florida, it's going to be able to feed off both the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic, and it can keep on going for a long time. There's also a lot of other factors that are going to come into play as it interacts with the land, which is really more of a swampy area down there more than a land area. So this storm is going to be able to thrive on top of that swamp, because there's no mountains down there. It's really flat, really wet, and also really close to sea level. So you're looking at the plant where the nuclear power plant Turkey Point is only at 3 feet sea level. 3 feet. And they're projecting this storm, if it's going to be at 892 millibars, it's going to have 60-foot waves. And we're talking about a facility in Turkey Point that's over 45 years old and has 350 metric tons of nuclear waste sitting at the site that could be potentially released into the storm. Here it is, Turkey Point. And as you can see, here's the elevation map. I highly recommend that if you're anywhere in the Caribbean or the East Coast, take a look at this elevation map wherever you are. You can check it all around the world. Now, as you can see here, Turkey Point, 3 feet. That's practically right off the sea level. I mean, there's even a couple lower places when you go into the swamp. If Hurricane Irma stays on its projected path, the eyewall is going to be going really close to this nuclear power plant down in Miami. The elevation at this nuclear plant is only 3 feet, making waves over 60 feet high. Turkey Point has over 45 years of spent nuclear waste on the site. There's more nuclear waste at Turkey Point than a full nuclear exchange between Russia and the United States. Have scientists even conceived of what could happen when 350 metric tons of nuclear waste spin around the eye wall of a Category 5 hurricane? What would be the ramifications? This storm, wherever it goes, could make those areas radioactive wastelands. Imagining one of your windows breaks open and now you have plutonium particles flying into your house. Science fiction? Not really. This has become a real possibility. One of the models is showing the eye wall going near also the Savannah River site on the border of Georgia and South Carolina. There's also tons of nuclear waste, some even high level, just sitting there. Is it a coincidence, just months after Fukushima happened in March of 2011, that summer had the third most hurricanes ever recorded? Now Dan Wington said it's not the cooling towers. However, you do have to consider that as a factor. Perhaps a slight one, but we're talking about over 500 million gallons per minute are being boiled up through cooling towers to keep those reactors from blowing up. We also have trillions of radioactive particles from Fukushima that have already been released into the atmosphere. You also have a force multiplier of all the above ground weapon testing and Chernobyl, 3 Mile and Sellafield and all the other leaks that get little noticed and not reported. Now I know most people in the climate change movement believe it's just carbon and gas. I think the solution is nuclear. Now that solution would lead to many times more waste, nuclear waste into our biosphere. Many people believe this storm is being enhanced by nuclear waste. Others believe the storm is being intentionally strengthened. Others believe humans have the power to weaken storms significantly. I tend to believe both are attainable. And I found this interesting. Here is the GFS model, which shows it at 899 millibar, getting very close to Turkey Point. And you see it look like it's going into also land in South Carolina. So it's definitely heating up as it gets closer to Florida. This is the ECM WF model. As the eye wall, barely missing Dominican Republic and Haiti. Now if this becomes true, Cuba won't play much of a factor as far as weakening the storm. So this model has it going directly right up the coast of the eye. Some white just lights up in there. So you can see here is 3 feet. You also have miles and miles and miles of cooling canals, thousands of acres right here. And they actually admitted that they dumped a bunch of nuclear waste in here. Found tritium levels 215 times above normal in this facility. And then you have this at only at 3 feet, so the water's going to go right over this area. But look at this. 1 foot. So this area is going to be underwater even before the hurricane gets there. It's just going to be saturated with water. You got 2 foot, 1 foot. By the time a hurricane gets here, this is pretty much going to be like the ocean for the hurricane. So I'm expecting you're still going to get a full-fledged, it's not going to lose too much power going over this lower area of South Florida. So you got the glades. This area is already going to be wet territory for the hurricane. So it looks like the Homestead Air Reserve Base, Leisure City, Lakes by the Bay is really, see how that area just sticks out. So I think that area could hit pretty hard. Oh, it might hit the wastewater treatment plant pretty hard and the landfill area pretty hard. Now let's take a look at the GFS model. Different models actually showing the storm, avoiding most of the big islands. Just the eye wall anyway. You're going to get some hurricane force winds on the northern side of Cuba. But they're going to, looks like they're going to avoid the eye wall. The storm is so big it's like it's got 2 eye walls almost. Looks like the storm kind of stayed there for a while. So we're getting hurricane force winds. So it looks like the eye doesn't hit directly in this model on Florida. You're still getting a lot of hurricane force winds. So this model shows a South Carolina, North Carolina border. There's also going to be some other factors at play. Now, a lot of people even haven't thought about this, so I'm just going to bring it up. Florida is very flat. It's also South Florida is already wet from heavy rains, and also how massive Irma is could cover the entire state of Florida. So even before the eye lands, the ground will be saturated with water. Also, what nobody else is talking about, then you heard it exclusively here. The state of Florida has been working really hard to send in more water into South Florida, to redirect water from canals from the north, and send that water as a sheet of water over most of South Florida. This could allow Hurricane Irma to maintain its strength and go much farther inland and cause major destruction to population centers, even being away from the eye wall hitting land. That's what they've been trying to do, and that was the big fuss because they've been saying they've been getting all the algae on the beaches, on the ocean, and they were blaming, the sugar plantations below Belle Glade, into Lake Okeechobee. So they wanted to redirect this water instead of going out to the east and to the west coast. They've been changing the landscape. They've been trying to buy up some of these lands and basically flood out these lands. So they are going to be much more wet, man-made on purpose. Miami Herald. As of September 6, 2 South Florida nuclear power plants lie in Irma's path. Projections on Wednesday showed Irma heading straight for South Florida, but neither Turkey Point nor the St. Lucie farther up the coast had made the call yet to shutting down the plants. We anticipate there will be direct impacts. LA Times. Nuclear Regulatory Commission said it was getting ready to shut down 2 Florida nuclear plants. Bloomberg. Nuclear plants in Irma's path plan shutdowns ahead of storm. 2 of the Sunshine State's nuclear facilities are in the Category 5 storm's path. But Category 5, this is a really high Category 5, and that category that people have been saying, hey, you know what, should be considered a Category 6. Especially when it gets under 900 millibars. And then we have a Category 6, and then maybe we have a Category 7. Not too far off in the future. This is a movie. Just a movie for now. The movie's called Category 7. Washington Post. This could be the big one, and everyone knows it. Hurricane Irma is about as big as a tropical cyclone could possibly get, and the latest computer model showed it aimed at South Florida. This hurricane's 185-mile-per-hour maximum sustained winds are the strongest recorded for a landfall hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean. Storm preparations are already underway at 2 nuclear sites in Florida. Next year, it said it will shut down its 4 nuclear reactors before Irma makes landfall. Now, it does take a couple days for these reactors to at least partially cool down. Next year, it also said that its reactors could weather a loss of electricity of the sort that caused a meltdown at Japan's Fukushima Daiichi reactor. That's kind of unproven, really, because it depends where their backup electricity comes. They say they got diesel generators, but like I say, they could get flooded out like they did with the tsunami when you have a 60-foot waves, and that was with backing up these diesel generators. So hypothetically, you could have Fukushima-like situations happening at Crystal River, happening at Turkey Point. It's plausible. PBS. Sustained winds are still blowing at a record 185 miles an hour, with gusts up to 225 miles an hour. One forecaster watching the assault today said this thing is a buzzsaw. It is shaped like a buzzsaw. You can see Cadia right here, forming, getting some significant strengthening. They're projecting Cadia to actually fall back into Mexico. I think only one model showed it actually going further into the Gulf. This could be the big one, and everyone knows it. Hurricane Irma is about as big as a tropical cyclone can possibly get, and the latest computer models show it aimed at South Florida. Sustained winds are still blowing at a record 185 miles an hour, with gusts up to 225 miles an hour. The Times. September 7. Caribbean islands devastated by the ferocity of Hurricane Irma, the worst Atlantic storm on record. The storm is at 480 miles wide and with gusts up to 225 miles an hour. is the most powerful recorded in the Atlantic. Hurricane Irma left apocalyptic damage across the Caribbean islands yesterday, inundating coastal areas and devastating buildings with 185-mile-an-hour winds. Officials on Barbados said more than 90% of the island had been destroyed. Barbuda is literally rubble. The entire housing stock was damaged. It's just total devastation, he said.